Welcome to the campfire.
I'm Tony.
I'm Peggy.
And we are two RV industry veterans who travel part-time
In a small trailer.
looking to share big adventures and help you with great tips,
Tricks.
and discounts.
Indeed. We're home right now, so we don't have actual campfire. Although last week we almost did.
It was almost nice enough weather to light our...
But
we
then-
have a fire pit at home.
Yeah,
and then
then
it was
the wind
windy.
picked up, of course.
Welcome to New Mexico.
So our bodies and our noses are still trying to adjust to the change in the amount of humidity in our lives. So hopefully
And
we're not
whatever
too weird sounding, but
Dusty, weird stuff is in the air has hit us both pretty hard. So by the way,
hopefully
if
we
you
sound okay.
Although today, as we record this, the weather is here. No, it
Beautiful.
is beautiful. And
I wish I was beautiful. The weather is here.
the weather is here. But I have the door open because there's just a whole mess of birds that have decided, hey, it's time to come back here.
So we might sound like we're in a campground.
Yeah, might. And I think we're in, I don't know how long it takes to make new birds, but I believe that they are
we'll
doing
have some.
exactly that. So, yeah. Well, if you want something that's not for the birds. Oh, man. That was, we have been watching some of the things that our friends at ABC Upfitters, who do terrific customized solar and lithium upfits or power upgrades for RVs of all type. And this past few weeks, we saw them do this absolutely crazy system in a fifth wheel that is both, it's just a mobile office, basically. It's an incredible system. And we also just today saw them put power and lithium systems into some Class B RVs.
Class B van, yeah.
And I know they've been working with a RV manufacturer and an RV manufacturer to do some work for that company that's pretty extensive. So they're the kind of people who know what they're doing. They're the kind of people you can trust. They use Mastervolt components because those come out of the marine industry. And, when you're 100 miles offshore, there's not a whole lot of room for failure. So they're very good systems. And our experience with our Mastervolt power system has borne that out. It has just been bulletproof. So if that's something that might intrigue you and you would like to speak to somebody who can go from nerd to normal, who can actually answer your questions, but in a way
you understand.
You can give them a call at 574-333-3225. That's 574-333-3225. Or there's a link below in the show notes. And
we haven't done that before.
Yeah.
Is a link below?
I know. Link below in the show notes. So, this is... so anyway, we've been very pleased with ABC Upfitters, and some of you have chosen to have them customize systems for you. And thus far, nobody has anything but great things to say about their whole experience.
Yep.
So that's really important. As Peggy had alluded to, a lot of you are probably still listening on the audio version of this, but this is our second week in a row with our commitment to making a video version of this podcast. And while I have no idea why you would want to watch us make a podcast,
you all said you wanted it. So
you did.
Here you go.
So here you go. And if
you're listening and you want to see, just go check us out on YouTube. And if you're listening and you don't want to see, well,
you're the
you're
wiser.
in the right place.
And I can't guarantee that we have pants on.
Oh my gosh, you are actually going to admit that.
I am.
I mean,
may.
Who hasn't sat with the video camera and hidden the fact whether they're wearing pants or not?
Well, pajamas all day. You have pajamas that say pajamas all day.
I do, and I wear them.
And you wear them in camp.
I do.
And I know more than a few of you either own RV parks or aspire to own an RV park or even kind of dream about owning an RV park. That's why we thought we'd have Scott and Tay back on, who are the they're building the Campers Hub.
Yeah.
And it's a campground in Colorado that has a very not work camping, like roadpreneur or homeschooling road, just if you have a job that you can do from anywhere, as long as you have Wi-Fi and a place to sit. This is what they're trying to offer. And we've stayed there. And when we stayed there, it was basically a big dirt lot in a building. And it is much more than that. So let's listen in with what they have to say about the experience of creating the Campers Hub. We are with Scott and Taylor, and they have a campground in Colorado. We met them at the Campers Hub. And they are, one of the unusual things, they are RVers who... I don't know if bought a campground is really the word. You bought the potential of a campground. Right. And I've been following you on Instagram for, I don't remember when we came and stayed there, but it was
about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
It was the 2022 year.
Okay. Yeah, it was when our trailer had been rear-ended. We were there with a trailer with a big dent in the back of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Scott and Taylor from the Campers Hub, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
It is our pleasure. So first of all, tell us, because the Campers Hub is a very different type of, well, tell us about your RVing first. Let's start there, and then let's talk about how very different and special the Campers Hub is.
Sure. We started our RV journey back in, what was that, summer of 2019? From Phoenix, Arizona. It was totally like a random choice almost. We started watching YouTube videos of other couples who were RVing, and Scott kind of tossed it out there like, hey, both of us are kind of ready for a change. What do you think about moving into an RV and traveling full time? And to my surprise, and maybe his as well, I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So we kind of just uprooted everything.
And then the way I've seen you tackle the Campers Hub, you also, I was just watching your video about gutting and redoing your RV, and on a 2-week schedule before you decided to leave town.
Yes.
I hear a lot of us in them.
I mean, I tell him, even now with this build, and especially when we are RVing, if Scott did not have the skills to fix things, if he was not a handyman, there's no way we would be where we are now.
Yeah, because
I would not have agreed to RV.
The thought wouldn't have even been entertained in the slightest.
No.
Right.
I mean, I made a list of the things I've watched you do just on Instagram. Pouring and smoothing concrete, planting trees, interior decorating, and like a beautiful like whole mountain painting on a wall, plumbing, putting on wood stoves, backhoe operator, and I'm sure I've missed a bunch of things, but I was just looking at all of the things you've done there. And when we were there, it was basically just a building and kind of open land.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how the Campers Hub is different, and why did you decide we want to have a campground?
Well, it goes back to when we were doing our RV trip. We were trying to work from the road, and we were having troubles finding good internet, and also, there's a certain community where you want to find other people that are going through something similar, that are working from the road. So we thought it would be cool to create a place that kind of catered to the full-time traveler, but also that maybe is not retired yet, that maybe is working from the road or, has a remote job or something like that. So, we kind of thought it'd be cool to create a community and a campground that's built around that. And that is kind of how we came across you guys too, was at the RV Entrepreneur Summit, actually at this property.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of it. We, like you said, you put it great in the beginning that we kind of bought into a hope, not so much a plan of putting that together. And, it's been 2 years of working on that. We've made quite a bit of progress, but there's still a lot to do. So yeah, if you do follow us on Instagram, you'll see almost every day. It's like, oh, great. What are they up to now?
It's entertaining. I really have been enjoying it.
So the property had some historical significance, if I remember right.
Yeah. So it was a schoolhouse for grades 1 through 3, originally built in the 40s. And what's nice about the building is that it's not like a small little building. It made for a good event center, and we're using the main, what was the gymnasium and the cafeteria area as like our co-working space. And then, the classrooms, we've got a camp store in one, the check-in area, and we'll have a conference room in another one where people can use it if they want to have meetings with other people, or even if there's families that want to do like classes, if they want like a whiteboard or something, have their kids for a little daytime schooling, they could use that. And then we have a third classroom, but we're not sure what we're going to use that for. So, yeah, we're open to feedback on what the best use of that would be. Originally, we were thinking like green screen, like creator space, but we've heard some other ideas too. And then, of course, there's always like the lingering idea of, okay, should we just open a brewery here instead? Because that might actually get the most use. So TBD on that.
I'm all for that. I'll be right there.
Yeah, that seems to be the one that gets really great feedback.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, that would be. Or you could just have a tap. I mean, something. So I don't know if you know, we used to own a resort ourselves for 7 years. And what this was, it was a bed and breakfast made out of old railroad cabooses. And everybody and their brother has an idea. And some of the ideas are really good. And some of the ideas are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but I like the idea of either a brewery or a tap room. That would, but I'm biased because I really like craft beer.
Of course.
But Colorado, which is where you are, has some really great choices. And you can have guest beers and all that. But anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
And kind of going along with the idea of like trying to build a community. I mean, what's better than, having a place to have a drink, after you're done working. So, it may be a good idea to
Expand our vision.
incorporate a tap room into the community building side of things.
Yeah, and that would be a more minimal expense and a less specific set of skills too, right? You bring in guest taps, and that's much easier than brewing and just managing. That's its own full-time job.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So since we were there, so you have the school building, and you're making it such that people can come in and get work done, which is good, and you'll have, I assume you already have good Wi-Fi or good connectivity and all that. What other things have you done since we were there?
Well, one of the major things, which is nice, that we actually have open now for people to book, are 17 electric sites. So we put in electric pedestals. We have 20 amp, 30 amp, and 50 amp sites. So those are now, we still have a little more landscaping we like to do, pretty them up, but they are fully functioning and people have camped in them, which has been just amazing to see. It actually felt like a real campground. I think the first time we actually saw somebody park in one of the spaces. That's been a huge change. And just looking at that area, that when you guys were here, it was just complete dirt. I mean, there was just piles of dirt out there. And now it actually resembles a campground and looks like we're really building something out there.
Awesome. But the kids aren't going to have a dirt pile to play in?
Oh, they got a dirt pile.
Oh,
so
okay.
The
that was
highway
very
construction
popular.
that's been going on. Yeah. Well, our dirt piles are huge now because thanks to the highway construction, they brought over a ton of dirt. They came and approached us. They said, "Hey, you guys want some free dirt?" And I said, "Okay." So we've got a huge berm around our property, and we're like, should we make like a dirt bike track out of this, or but future plans.
Just more possibilities.
For now, it's just a buffer zone.
Yeah, I remember some of the kids when we were there. That was something they were really looking forward to, was the dirt pile. It's funny, funny that it's like on Christmas when you open the presents. What do you play with? The box.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
He needs a playground.
I thought it was funny that some of them even remembered from the year before that there was a dirt pile, and they're like, "Mom, Dad, is the dirt pile still there?"
And look, I don't even have kids, and it made that much of an impression on me that I'm asking about it.
Yeah. So now what in your town, it's a small town, they're not used to building campgrounds. So was there a lot of challenges with the permitting and getting like the electric and all of that? I assume you did a lot of that yourselves.
We haven't done the plumbing or the electric. That's got to all be done by, licensed contractors, and it's permitted through the state. So we kind of work on the projects that we can do ourselves, digging holes, putting in roads, planting trees, irrigation, stuff like that.
It's kind of like a yes and no answer, actually. Like there's a lot of stuff we have been able to do ourselves, and then it comes down to certain things that licensed professionals have to come in and do for us. Like the plumbing
and electricity. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest challenges, though, has been finding engineers that are familiar with designing an RV park. So we've had some trouble with the septic because out here in rural Colorado, normally they want to put like one house on 1 acre, and obviously that's not going to work for an RV park. So we've been trying to navigate the nuances of, the building codes with our engineers to figure out how are we going to make this work. Coming in after the codes have been changed, we're not necessarily we're held to a higher standard than the RV parks that have been grandfathered in. So that's been one of the big challenges, is working our way through that.
And just finding someone that can help design it. And what about the permitting? Has permitting been a big hassle, or? I mean, permitting's always a hassle, I know, but
this is someone who
I used to
do the permitting back in the olden days. So,
yeah, we've definitely had a couple times where the inspector's been out and they say, "Oh, you can't do it like that." And it's like, "Well, we got the permit for it, or the drawings were approved, and there's oh no, we got to go." So it hasn't necessarily been permitting. And, keep in mind, we haven't gotten into the thick of our permitting process with doing the big septic stuff. Mm-hmm. It's mostly been, electrical inspections that have kind of been like, "Oh, no, you've got to add this in." It's like, well, these are small sites. Like, they don't need huge amounts of power. Like, this isn't intended for tent campers. Right. And, there's just some things that our electricians haven't been through or hadn't been through up to this point, that they're kind of learning, some of the nuances of the code, after the fact, after things go in. So, it's the kind of thing you want to do it once, but, fortunately we haven't been hit with anything where it's like, okay, this is a huge game changer and, this isn't going to work anymore. So, we haven't had to deal with that.
Oh, that's good.
So far, we've been able to work through everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was when we bought our place. The kitchen had been flooded and gutted, so there was no kitchen, which makes a bed and breakfast really just a bed and no breakfast. Yeah. And the permitting process was simple, as you said, but then the inspector came in and said, "Oh, no, you have to do this with the floors. I don't care what and it's like, come on." So anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes you wish common sense would overrule, but
yes,
it's hard to fight once it's in the code book.
Right.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Or people who don't know RVs. I think it's been hard working with people who don't know the RV world. So, when we stayed at RV parks, it's like, well, we weren't running through 40 gallons of water a day. I mean, more often than not, you just get used to conserving water as an RVer. And sometimes we even looked for campgrounds where all we wanted was to boondock for the night because we want to do laundry in town. And I don't think people who don't know the RV world really understand that sometimes people come to stay at a park, not because they're going to be running their water full time, but because it's just a place to reset.
Yeah.
And not stay in a parking lot for a night.
For us, it's usually we like to boondock a lot, and our camper really is well situated for it. But there comes those days where it's like, okay, I need to empty my tanks and fill my tanks. So, and so those
Absolutely.
are the
Reset.
replenish the RV, as it were.
Take a shower that's not on, off, on, off, on.
Yes.
Yeah. It's nice to have one of those every now and then.
Every now and then. Well, we, at our property where we live, we actually haul our own water. So even when we're, used to be, I'd get home, I'd be like, okay, I'll see you in 20 minutes. I'm going to stand under the hot water till it's gone.
I'd be
Not
outside
anymore.
with the shutoff valve.
Now my showers are almost as fast as they are in the RV. Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Close.
What are some of the highlights of the area for people who have not been there?
So there's a lot of highlights, which is also why we ended up here, because it wasn't just the property presented itself, but the city of Montrose and the surrounding area presented so many opportunities for adventure, which is also why we went with the Campers Hub, because it's kind of the hub for adventure out here. Between hiking, mountain biking, jeeping is huge out here. Montrose is actually known for its river surfing, which I didn't really know even until we moved here. So that brings actually people from all over the state to Montrose. What else is there? Fly fishing.
You have those hot springs.
Oh,
That's
the hot
what
springs?
floated my boat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just down the road in Uray.
The national park.
That's one of our favorite things to do on our, quote unquote time off is go soak in the hot springs. Yeah, we got Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park nearby. And yeah, just anything outdoors, mountain biking, rock climbing, anything like that.
Ice climbing, paddle boarding.
Is all, within an hour's drive from Montrose.
And are you open year round?
We weren't this last winter, but I think we will be coming up here.
Because of all the winter sports that are available. You'll probably get.
Yeah, we do still get some traffic coming through here, the ice climbers, and then, just anybody that's passing through the area. Montrose is a popular airport to fly into for Telluride, so for skiers. But yeah, anybody that's driving through and needs to, find a place to get some work done, we're here for them.
So yeah, that's unusual because so many RV parks, the connectivity is pretty terrible. And that's a big difference. And that's interesting that you're able to get good connectivity kind of out in a rural area.
Yeah. Fortunately, we're not too far from the city of Montrose. And I think just the people of Montrose in the government somewhat forward thinking. So they actually ran a fiber optic line out here. So we're on fiber. So we've got pretty good internet.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're going to make sure that as we grow, we continue to have a good, net coverage of RV sites. We don't want to just be, because you're at the far end that you're out of luck and you got to walk with your laptop to go find the signal. We're going to make sure that there is good coverage here.
That's what the building's
and then
for.
obviously,
Yeah.
well, yeah, the
that's
building's
right.
here, but we don't want to also force people to use it if they, we've had people stay here where one spouse will go out to the RV to go do work, say they're being recorded for a podcast and they want their own, quiet space. And so the other spouse comes in and does work. So,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And if somebody were to stay with you guys and they said, oh, we're thinking of either buying a campground that's already built out or doing as you did, basically buying land and then building out a campground, would you have any advice for them?
I think we'd have a lot of advice.
Do your research. Not saying we didn't do our research, but I think one of the most common questions we have gotten asked, and people reach out on Instagram all the time who are interested in doing this. And I always tell them every city and county is going to have different rules. So some things that have applied and been challenges for us here might not be the case if you're trying to build in a place in Iowa or something like that. So really looking into those county codes, state codes, all of that kind of stuff can make a huge impact on your RV park and your build. We got lucky too that our zoning for one of our parcels was already done before we got here because it was agriculture land. And so it had to be rezoned to become, I don't know if it was just
Special
like
use
RV.
permit
Yeah.
for RV park. Yeah. I mean, my other advice would be, you know, starting a business and doing building is difficult from a banking standpoint because usually a bank wants to say, okay, show us the business income and then we'll loan you the money for construction.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a challenge when you're trying to do both and say, okay, well, we're doing nothing but spending money, so our finances don't exactly show that. So that's something to definitely consider if you know, you're switching, you know, cutting off completely from a paid job to building a campground from scratch. You know, maybe you need to find, you know, some private money or something that allows a little bit of flexibility on that. And then, yeah, if you've never done it before, man, it would be so much easier to just, you know, buy a campground that was existing. You know, especially the amount of work that we're putting into this thing. You know, we're doing it the hard way, but, you know, fortunately we're able-bodied and able to work, you know, 12, 14 hours a day, you know, chipping away at what needs to be done. You know, we'll get there. It's just going to take a lot longer than, you know, obviously having something that's, you know, maybe we want to change the paint color on the building or, you know, just working out some of the process of checking in and stuff that maybe an older campground didn't quite have done. You know, so there's definitely a harder way and an easier way. I would definitely say we picked the harder way of doing things, but hopefully it'll all pay off in the end.
Then it's kind of yours as opposed to someone else's.
Sure.
So there is
yeah.
And that
I do wonder if we're like building out our vision, you know, is catering to like the RV community who's full-timers and working on the road. We get approached all the time by people that just want long-term stays. You know, they're like, what's your annual rate? And we're like, we're not really like going to be that kind of park. We want travelers and people that are kind of coming in and out, almost like a hostel, you know, like people are coming from all over the world and they're mixing and mingling, and then they go out and do fun stuff, but maybe they get some work done, you know, while they're here in the co-working space. Whereas, I think the easy way would have been to just say, all right, you know, like let's do some long-term spaces and then book it up and be done with it.
Well, I think
again, we choose to, or go ahead.
Oh, well, I think, you know, as a transient RVer, for lack of a better description, we go from park to park and visit places and all of that, and don't stay long periods of time in any one spot, other than we do have a house, so our junk has a place to live. But the parks that have long-term residents have a different feel. And
right.
Yes.
The collection of
that's something
things,
we noticed.
Yeah.
RVing. Yeah.
So I prefer the places that don't have, although I did see one park recently, and I really liked that they put all the long-term and permanent residents kind of on the other side of a line of trees. And they even had metal roofs. That was pretty cool because you couldn't see them from the more transient areas. So that was neat.
Yeah.
But that place was enormous.
It makes a difference.
It was. What would you say was the hardest part up till now?
That's a good question. I feel like something that's been really hard, which is also something to consider when building a business like this, it's almost like something to consider before diving into RV life full time. Nothing is going to go as you expect it to go. And you have to learn how to be flexible and work through that things are not going to go as planned. And it's going to take longer sometimes than you expected a journey to take. But ideally, you're still on the right path to your destination. But I think, if you would have asked us way back when we first met you guys, oh, when do you think the RV park is going to be done? We would have thought by now it would have been complete, and that is not the case at all. So we've definitely had to learn how to get creative and be flexible, I think, throughout this whole build, which has been hard when you had this idea in your mind, a year and a half ago that you'd be done. And now here you are looking at it thinking, oh, I thought this would look way different than it looks now, but that's okay.
It's finding a place for all those trees.
No, tell me about it. It will be a forest in no time.
But don't block the Starlink.
25 years.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Starlink. That's been interesting too, to see how that might affect parks like this, because now people are actually able to connect in a way that they didn't used to be. Even when we were RVing, I don't think Starlink was a thing yet. So it's been interesting to see how that's going to kind of play into everything as well.
It's funny, last week we stayed at a state park with a group of people who have the same brand of RVs. So it was a Rockwood Mini Light and Flagstaff Microlight gathering. And somehow they made a Facebook group and they asked, can anybody show a movie? Well, we have a projector and we have a big outdoor screen. So I'm like, I can, but is there an open spot for my Starlink dish? Because that would affect it. And they're like, oh no, there's a lot of trees in this park. And I'm like, doggone it.
There were a lot of trees, but
I found a clearing. So
we were lucky. The site that we got actually there was a enormous space between us and the next site. It was just a big empty space, and it was kind of tree-ish, but it was open enough that the Starlink had a perfect view.
Yeah, it got its own little spot in the clearing, so that worked out.
That works out pretty well. I mean, yeah, that's a big factor is, well, and I don't know, clouds.
Clouds do affect it, but
too?
not as much as trees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, well, yeah, certainly as of now, we don't really have a whole lot of barriers, large trees. So
yeah,
we're good in those
not for
terms.
some time.
On those days where you want to sit inside the trailer and just stare at the internet all day long because the weather sucks, you have less.
Those are the days there's no internet because the weather sucks.
Yes.
Well,
that's
then
been
you
here
use
the
their
last couple
fiber.
days, raining.
Yeah. Yeah, then
That's
you come
right.
into the main building and use your high quality internet there.
Yes, and hopefully meet other people. That's kind of the goal too, is
Right.
you start chatting with other people in the co-working space, and maybe business connections are made, or friendships, or whatever it may be, because you're almost forced to work in the same space together.
Yeah, but having been there, it's a really good space that's pretty we had a bunch of people when we were there that were all fellow RV entrepreneurs, and it was a good sized space. Well, it was a classroom, or not a classroom, but a school building. So it worked out really, really well.
It was the gymnasium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
/ cafeteria.
yeah.
What do they call that?
Yeah,
By the way,
doesn't since then too.
Which, by the way, doesn't look like a gymnasium or cafeteria, in case
No.
anybody's thinking.
Yes.
They're actually picturing. I mean, I've gone to elementary schools for events where they pull out those little tables with those little benches and you try to squeeze
Yes.
down onto a table.
Yeah,
We
get
do
somebody
not
like
have
me
those.
in those student desks, and it'll have to be you'll have to get the local fire department to get me back out.
So I'm talking about the size of the room, not the size of the furniture.
Well, this has been great. I mean, I recommend people go there, and if somebody wants to come stay or just even follow you, how do they do that?
They can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Campers Hub, and they can also book through our website, thecampershub.com.
Okay.
Sounds good. Well, Scott and Taylor, thank you. We can't wait to come back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
next time we'll be able to plug in and use the internet and all of that.
Right.
So, but it was a
We'll
great
sit down in
space.
person.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you.
thanks for having us on. And yeah, when you come out, we'll have you out there watering some of those trees.
Well, last time we had the border hookups there, and they were
Yes.
performing using a Jackery power station, and we won that Jackery. So Now we have the famous
Yeah.
Jackery
The famous
from
Jackery.
the Campers Hub and the Border Hookups.
Nice.
I
Did,
love
did they
that.
sign it for you?
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's a good idea.
Oh, well, if you cross paths with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see
sign
them
On occasion.
not infrequently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. They've come back and stayed here with us since then.
I mean,
that's
the
good.
United
Yeah.
States is big, but it's still kind of a small world.
yeah, and we keep running into the
Oh,
same
yeah.
cool people, which I
Yeah.
like. So
Yeah. No, we thought that the RV entrepreneur community was just, we're like, these are our people. These are definitely a good crowd.
yeah, we need to get that group back there again.
Yeah.
Because that was a really
Yeah,
good
we
experience.
We really want to.
Yeah, we'd love to do something. Maybe this fall we'll get
something
enough
together.
stuff done, wrapped up that we can put some time into planning some sort of rally or something here.
We'll just get Andy or one of those guys to put it together, and then you just sit back and we roll on in.
Yeah.
More than 50% of RVers suffer from CD, many without even knowing it.
I used to get excited before our RV trips, but then I started having issues. Camping issues. Like I just lost that spark for pulling into the spot for the night. No matter how much I wanted to, I just couldn't get into it. And it wasn't just affecting me. It was upsetting her too.
Every time we tried to go RVing, it was the same thing. No, literally, the exact same thing. Over and over again.
Where's the excitement, the butterflies, the feeling you can't wait to rip open your RV door and explore? Not here.
I knew it was CD, but I was too embarrassed to talk about it.
Camping dysfunction, or CD, can affect any RVer, anytime, anywhere. But you no longer have to suffer in silence. You can take action.
That's when I found out about Harvest Host. It's a network of more than 5,000 small businesses coast to coast where RVers can stay. Farms, wineries, breweries, attractions. Harvest Host really helped me find that camping spark again. And the best part is, it worked right away. No more planning ahead.
With maximum privacy and safe, beautiful settings, 9 out of 10 doctors recommend habit-forming Harvest Host as the cure for sad camping. Do not try a Harvest Host if you're allergic to Harvest Host. Having fun, loving where you camp. Side effects may include fewer arguments, better sleep, supporting small business, and even bow chicka wow wow.
Turns out it just doesn't have to be that hard.
Take note, ladies.
See you later, CD, and hello, Harvest Host.
Can't wait to do it again.
Talk to a doctor to find out if Harvest Host is right for you. But don't really, because they won't know what you're talking about. Unless, of course, they RV, in which case they'll talk your ear off. You know what? Just check it out online at harvesthost.com. Harvest Hosts, a more satisfying way to camp.
I think Harvest Host is doing such a fun thing with that ad.
I know. And by the way, I don't know if you're aware, but you can get a discount on a Harvest Host membership. We have a link in our show notes and at StressLessCamping.com.
This week's recipe of the week.
Oh, we actually.
Oh my gosh. We were at a rally for mini lights, mostly mini lights.
And Flagstaff
Flagstaff
Microlights. We don't want to forget them.
We were in Texas and I made the reservations long before I knew the details. And so we didn't realize that Sunday afternoon is not when everybody gets home. Sunday afternoon is part of the rally.
Yeah.
And so they made sticky piggy bread.
Oh my gosh.
Dan and
Tony.
Tony,
How
sorry.
could you
I don't know
forget
how I
his
forgot
name?
that. I panicked. I was trying to remember the recipe. So Dan and Tony made sticky piggy bread. And so we stuck around. We changed our plans. We did leave that day, but we waited until about 3:00 when the bread was done and we could try it out.
I even got to help a wee bit.
He did. So sticky piggy bread. I'm not going to give you the whole recipe properly because I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's biscuit dough, caramel sauce, cinnamon sugar,
Bacon.
bacon.
That's the piggy part.
Yeah, that's the piggy part. And maybe, butter.
Oh,
Lots of butter and maple
lots
syrup.
of butter.
Actually.
How much butter?
And so if you've ever had like monkey bread or pull-apart bread, you quarter those biscuits and you layer them in there and you pour all that other goopy stuff on top and bake it. And they actually baked it in their Dutch
yeah.
ovens with the charcoal briquettes below and above. And so really awesome, great recipe. It is on our website, and you can go check out the details and learn to make your own.
Yeah. So we'll put a link in the show notes, which is also down below.
Oh. This week, do you have a gadget report for us?
Well, I wanted to update our listeners and now viewers. Hi, everybody. On our experience with the B&W Continuum weight distribution hitch.
Oh, good idea.
Something I have said when people ask me about that hitch, they said, so has it made a big difference? And the answer is, I don't know.
We don't know.
Because
unfortunately, at the same time that we got the hitch, we got a different truck.
Yeah. So we got a far more capable truck and the B&W Continuum hitch. What I can tell you is that if you dread putting on a weight distribution hitch because of those bars or chains or any of that clumsy, fiddly stuff.
No more.
Not with this hitch. This hitch could not be easier to hook up. It's you drop the trailer on the ball, you clamp in a little, like a saddle type of arrangement, and then you set the amount of pressure on the hitch with a lever that, and all of this is built in. Installing it on the trailer was relatively easy. A little more difficult because of how Rockwood built the frame. I actually had to cut a wee bit of frame away. But it just has been really, really good. We've been in some windy roads. We've been in some windy roads. I don't know. We've got thousands of miles on this thing, and I am completely satisfied with it.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking of getting a really good weight distribution hitch, the B&W Continuum. Oh, and guess what? We have a full review of that hitch after I had just installed it. And so many months later and thousands of miles later, I still wouldn't hesitate to recommend that weight distribution hitch. So
absolutely.
That's our take on the B&W Continuum weight distribution hitch.
Okay. So a lot of people, I've spent a lot of time on Facebook looking to see what you all are talking about. And people are saying they have roof leaks on the front corner of their travel trailers.
Yeah. And that's super common. And here's the thing. Every RV manufacturer says, check the seals on your RV every 90 days. That's a pretty common recommendation.
Sure.
And they mean anywhere where there's a hole or a joint in the exterior of the RV. And that can include windows, baggage doors, where the furnace vent is, just anywhere like that. But something I've seen a lot of people overlook is that area where the roof of the RV meets the front of the RV. And that is a pretty high flex area. Mm-hmm. And if that sealant fails, and it can fail from sunlight, it can fail from age, it can fail from movement, it can fail from crows pecking it, you're going to get a leak. And so the way I check the roof of our trailer is a cheater way.
Yeah, but it's a safe way.
It is. Safeway. That's a store.
So we actually use a camera on a selfie stick.
Yep.
Put the selfie stick, raise the camera up, either take some video that we can review later, or sometimes you use the GoPro camera and put it up there, and you can be looking at the screen on your cell phone while the GoPro is up there. But it's nice to have the actual camera up there taking a video, because then you can stop, you can zoom in, and in 90 days when you do it again, you can review what it looked like last time.
Yeah, so if you see that it's starting to crack or change, it's not difficult or even expensive to go over those seals if they're not heavily damaged, which they wouldn't be in 90 days, you hope, unless there's like hail. Yeah. So it's just my cheater way of keeping the water out, which is sort of the whole idea.
Absolutely. Our question of the week, which has now actually been up for 2 weeks, because last week we didn't cheat. We just had a really good time at that rally, and we didn't do all the regular things that we do.
We didn't.
So you've had a couple weeks to answer, and we were just curious how many camping rigs you've had. So I don't necessarily mean one certain particular thing. We had almost 80 answers, which was awesome. I am not going to read them all to you. I realize that sometimes that can get a little overbearing, but I saw a trend. A lot of people said, I've had some number of tents, a pop-up, some number of travel trailers, maybe a fifth wheel, maybe a Class A. But some of those people who have had fifth wheels or Class A's have started going back down in size a little bit as the children have flown the nest.
Yeah, not unusual.
So they just needed, they needed the bigger rigs for what they were doing, and now they don't. And Reverend Scott, I will call him out because he had the best, most unusual answer. In addition to other things, he has actually owned a Cadillac hearse and 3 Cadillac ambulances.
Reverend Scott is a super cool dude.
He is
anyway.
a super cool dude.
He used to work at Anderson Valley brewing beer for a living. He took me for a ride in his VW thing.
Right.
And he's one of those dudes who's just like, on the next level of cool. So there you go. That I'm not surprised that Scott had a hearse,
not one
or
little bit,
3 ambulances.
But I thought it was worth sharing.
And imagine if you had an ambulance, how much more quickly you could get to camping if you turned the lights on.
Yeah. It's a camping emergency.
Yeah, I gotta get out of here.
So this week, our question is, will you please share your experience with overnighting at rest areas? Now, I know that not all states allow it. Not all people want to do it because of maybe the noise. Have you stayed at a rest area? And I'm just talking about rest areas. We know all about Walmart and Cracker Barrel and all that stuff.
Right.
But I specifically want to know what your experience has been with rest areas and where.
Yeah, and what your experience has been. And did you know you can answer that at our fun and friendly Stressless Campers Facebook?
That's right. Did you also know that we have a weekly newsletter?
What?
And it's free.
No.
And it's so easy to sign up. We have links to stories and videos and podcasts and things that will help you get the best out of your RVing experience. And you can sign up by visiting the website. There's going to be a pop-up if it's your first time there.
Not a pop-up tent trailer, though.
Not a pop-up tent trailer. A little pop-up notice that says, hey, you want to join the newsletter? And if you missed that opportunity and you still want to do it, don't worry about it. You can still go to the hamburger menu.
Or at the bottom of any page of the website.
Okay.
It's in a few places.
Tony changes the website like every other day. So
I made a huge
sometimes
bunch
I can't remember where things are.
Well, I made a whole lot of changes this week.
That's right. And so if you haven't been there in a couple of weeks, go check it out and see if you notice the differences.
Yeah. And if you... You'll also find the notes for this episode on the website, which is episode number 253 on the podcast page. And all of that, believe it or not, is in one giant camping resource called StressLessCamping.com.
Also, on that same resource, giant camping resources, our deals and discounts page. And that's where you'll find the best deals on things you need for your StressLess Camping adventure.
Yeah. And if you have a deal that our audience needs to listen to or see, like, for example, ABC Upfitters or Harvest Hosts, well, let us know. We're happy to share stuff that we really like with you, especially if you're willing to offer a discount.
Right, especially.
And by the way, we are trolling all the social places. Whatever you like, X, TikTok, well, as long as it's not outlawed. Well, it is outlawed now. I mean, geez Louise. But anyway, all of those social places, but you can start at StressLessCamping.com. And then once you're bored with the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages with that, well, okay, I guess you could go to the social stuff too.
Yeah. Now, if you don't want to miss a future episode of the StressLess Camping podcast,
it is free.
It's also free to sign up, and you can listen on the website, or you can listen at any podcast catcher, and we are saving you a seat around our virtual campfire.
Isn't that cool? And of course, a review will help others find this podcast, and the more listeners means that we can continue to get the best guests. And just leave a review on your favorite podcast place. We did get a really good one this week that I wanted to share with you that I had forgotten to pull up.
Now that he has to find.
Yeah, right? But I can do it. I can do it.
So it's actually an update review, it looks
Oh.
like. And it says this podcast just gets better all the time. I'm at 3 years into listening to them, and Tony and Peggy keep it fresh. I will say again, whether you're a beginner to RVing or a seasonal pro, a seasoned
Seasonal pro.
seasonal pro, or a seasoned pro, or whatever, you will always learn something new and keep your camping stress less.
Oh, thank you so much. The reviews really do mean the world to us.
They mean the world to us, and they really do help. You know, the more reviews that are out there, the more Apple or whoever podcast places say, oh, someone's listening, and we should let other people know.
Yep. Well, share what you find on our website with your friends. We have a lot of answers. So if you come across a question on social media, you can share the answer from our website if you like. And well, that's what we have for you this week. Hey, let us know. Do you like these videos? Are you like, dude, we really don't need to see you drinking beer and yapping on a mic.
That's all right. You just keep listening. It's okay.
Yeah, whatever. But we appreciate your feedback. And of course, that's at our Facebook group, or you can contact us on our website or whatever suits you. But most of all, we appreciate you and
StressLess Camping.